All right. Let's go back to watching this because stream cut and we have to get back into it. So basically, what they were saying to recap on everything, they are bringing in a D&D chapter, which contains, I think, maybe a map, a survivor, and a killer. I'm not sure about a map though. I'll have to check that. Um, they're bringing in a 2v8 game mode, and we can look at the roadmap for the year. Where is it? Okay, this is it. They have right now June, new map, new survivor, new killer, licensed. July, there's a tome with a new licensed survivor. There's an in-game event on June and a new game mode on July. August, they're bringing in a new killer and survivor that are also licensed with a new modifier in September. I believe that's the Chaos Shuffle. Tome 21 and in-game event for October, because I believe that's going to be the Halloween event, which I'm very excited for. December, they're bringing in a new original chapter with a new killer, new survivor, and new map with an in-game event. 22nd tome in January 2027. 2025. Halloween, yeah. Licensed chapter, new killer in March with an in-game event. And then in April, a tome 23 chapter and new survivor. So this is very exciting. Let's see, what else did they announce? There's a little fun, cute little game they have here,
And most importantly, it is super duper fun, and I think you'll be surprised. So let's take a look.
which is called What the Fog.
Well, you've done it now, Dwight. You just had to touch the cursed board game. Now, you and your friend are trapped in our world, and danger is everywhere.
Which looks cute and
But
look really
don't
fun, and I
despair.
believe that
Use
is
your new magic
a
abilities against the swarms
expansion of what
monsters
the
that
world
want
outside of the
you
trials
dead.
looks like.
Run, jump, and shoot to collect blood points to repair
Because the
generators,
realm in the
increasing
game
your
isn't
power
just
along
the
the way.
trials, there's something
Unlock
outside
the
of it.
door to escape together. Did you just die? It's not over yet. Use spells to keep your friend alive until they can
But
revive
let's go
you.
back to where we were.
Do you and your
remaining survivor. That way, if
So now there's a new thing now where when you're the last survivor, the killer could just kill you as a base kit. They don't need the offering anymore, which the offering is going to get reworked, I believe they said. But yeah, that's a new change that's coming through again.
the killer is able to successfully pull it off,
The way 2v8 works also is survivors don't use perks. They have like classes depending on what you want to do, whether it's repairing, looping, or healing. And then killers, what they have is new abilities. Like the example they gave is if you are Wraith and you cloak yourself, what happens if the other killer is in your terror radius? They get undetectable. So no aura, nor red stain, no heartbeat for them. Um it's also gonna be only the five original killers, which I think it's fine. It's makes it accessible. I hope that they make changes to that at some point where they add more and more killers that you can use. Yeah, that looks really fun. And the way it works for the hooks is you kind of send the survivors to the hooks from where they are. Because if you had to take up a survivor and put him on a hook, and then you had like 7 other survivors trying to stop you from getting the hook, it would be too much. So instead, what you can do is you can stomp on them. They go into the ground and just end up like on a hook somewhere else. Kind of like how Pyramid Head works, which is really fun. I think that's a good change. That's a good idea.
We get an exciting conclusion to the match, and the survivors can feel that the games ended in a fair way, and this match went smoothly, and it was a really exciting experience for everybody. More offerings are also going to be updated to instead give bonus blood points, so that it'll be a more rewarding experience for killers if they're able to pull it off.
So the killer's going to want to land that at the end.
Yes.
It happens at the end, like you said, so we're not killing the flow of the match. I think it's a really great balance from where we started and the feedback that we got, so kudos to you and the team. And that's all we've got from you today. Unfortunately, you have to go, but the show is far from over. Next up, we're going to hear about the new chapter coming to Dead by Daylight. So stay tuned, everybody, and thank you, Derek, for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so they have a D&D chapter coming in. Oh, I forgot. What's the name of it? Decimated Borgo is going to look different too. Which that's exciting.
I'm already so excited for the challenges and the finisher Mori.
I just want to shout out Derek for dropping so casually such a highly anticipated feature with cross progression.
Yes, cross progression is finally coming. Super excited. And it's another reason for you to make your behavior account. So not only will you be able to get What the Fog for free, but you also be prepping yourself for cross progression, which we know that's something, you're once again going to have to be waiting to get your hands on. But we can now talk about merch, which you can get your hands on right now. So with the merch store, we've got the always popular mystery boxes coming back for this anniversary. And obviously because of the name, I can't tell you what's in the box.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll try, But anyway, in the boxes, you're going to see 4 very exclusive DBD items specifically for this release. It's also going to include an art print where some of them are actually signed by our creative director, Dave Richard.
Which is pretty amazing. I had Dave sign my
That's
chest
cool.
backstage. So I won't be sharing that to save you all, but he's got a great signature, one of the best. It's a really cool piece too. If you haven't gotten a mystery box in the past, it's always just a fun unboxing process. So follow the QR code on screen, scan it, and go get it. But we also have an update to the DBD board game.
Oh, yeah, you're right. There is going to be an expansion pack for the Dead by Daylight, the board game. And this is going to be called the Malicious expansion. This comes with 3 new killers, the Artist, the Dredge, and the Knight, and 4 new survivors, Michaela, Jonah, Hattie, and Vittorio. It's also going to come with 2 new maps.
Model
which are gonna
question?
be the
Yeah,
Garden of
go
Joy
ahead.
and the Forsaken Boneyard.
It's super exciting, and I'm so happy to see the success of the board game. I'm such a tabletop nerd that it's just such good quality, and I'm glad that people are resonating with it. So shout out to level99games.com, which is where you want to go to pre-order it. You'll get it later this summer. Obviously, the DBD merch shop as well is available. You can open it up on your phone with that QR code. You can go to another tab and get some shiny stuff.
Yes, it'll be really nice, especially like you said in the summer, play it outside, touch some grass at the same time. So other than that, if you have any questions about the content we've been dropping so far, there's been a lot of content.
Yeah.
We will have our live Q&A segment at the end of the stream, so make sure you're dropping your questions into the chat. But other than that, roll initiative, because it's time to talk about Dungeons and Dragons.
Poor misguided wanderers.
Here's the trailer they put out.
There were many, and now so few. How little you must value your lives to take a single insignificant breath in my sanctum.
So
Hello,
that's him.
friends. I'm Mathieu Côté, I'm head of partnerships for Behavior Digital, and I'm extremely happy to be joined here today by Sean from our friends at Wizard of the Coast.
By the way,
is going to be
I've seen a few playthroughs, a few gameplay clips of how he works. He has powers, he has magic, and he can switch between 4 of them, which is really cool.
with me talking about what we
So
just
you can do
saw.
combos with them.
Hi, Sean.
Hey, Matthew. Great to see you.
Pleasure. We just saw the trailer here. I still have goosebumps. This is so amazing. Like I was saying earlier, I have inner child in me that's thrilled right now. I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons since I'm 10 years old, and it's an absolute dream come true. So thank you so much for being a part of that.
Of course, yeah, my pleasure. 10-year-old Sean wakes up every day realizing that he works at Wizards of the Coast. Dream job. So we're super aligned on that.
So Dungeons and Dragons is probably one of the biggest gateways that people have had to how to craft stories, how to design games, how to create experiences for other people. We've seen it, of course, within the dev team. There's so many people who've got their first taste of designing games through Dungeons and Dragons. Have you seen this to be true with other developers that you've worked with?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I always say it's the easiest thing about my job is I never have to teach people what D&D is or what the brand is about, because when I'm working with the developer, I guarantee you the person that I'm talking to has played and everybody on their team has played, or at the very least is like very aware of what the game is and what it entails. It makes my job very, very easy. I always joke around, D&D is kind of this like the building block or like the connective tissue between game designers. You can be at a gaming convention and you're talking to other developers, and if you have nothing else in common, just start talking about D&D.
It's true. It's kind of a common language. There's so many common references there. For me personally, like I said, it's a dream come true. I still play Dungeons and Dragons every week with my group of friends. I'm the forever DM in that group, and I know that there are a couple of other people on my team who were absolutely thrilled to be a part of this. What made sense for Wizard of the Coast to enter into this collaboration?
That's a great question. I think that exploring horror is always something that's really, really interested us. Dungeons and Dragons has dipped its toes in horror before. We've got modules like Curse of Strahd. We've got a lot of different horror elements we've brought together in some of our monsters. Obviously, characters like Vecna have been super horror driven. So when the idea popped up on our radar, hey, what do you think about working together with Behavior on a Dead by Daylight module? Like the light turned on instantly. I don't think anybody was there were no question marks. It was mostly just exclamation points. It's like, how do we do this the best, right? Like, let's find the coolest character. Let's find the coolest setting. Let's really make this a true sort of celebration of D&D inside of Dead by Daylight and make it a way that feels super native to that game.
Yeah. And you mentioned horror. I mean, I know a lot of people will probably think that their first thought when they think of Dungeons and Dragons is not necessarily horror, but there is quite a lot of potential for horror in there. I mean, it is a very flexible medium to tell stories, and horror stories are some of the stories that will provoke the most intense emotions and reactions in players. So for us, it made sense. Yes.
Yeah, I'm also slightly in the forever dungeon master box that you are. I try to inject a little bit of horror into all the campaigns that I run. I think that it's just a great tool to use to tell stories. If your players never get scared, right, you're probably doing something a little bit wrong. And like you mentioned, Dungeons and Dragons is just a really flexible system for telling stories. At the end of the day, the players and the dungeon masters, you're not fighting each other. You're just there telling a collaborative story about what happens. And horror is just a great tool to include in that box of storytelling. It's D&D hasn't always been, hey, we are a horror game, but the tools are there if you want to do it. And I think some of the best storytellers out there definitely implement those tools.
Yeah, there are many examples out there. Now, why Vecna? I mean, we've seen it in the trailer. He is an absolutely terrifying presence. I think that whether you're a survivor or a killer and you play with Vecna in that game, it's going to be a really, really intense experience. So tell me a little bit, why Vecna and why it makes sense?
For me, the main reason that Vecna was very clearly like on the top of the podium the entire time we were discussing potential killers is that Vecna has always had this horror movie monster vibe to him. I mean, as a lich, he's always had the ability to. You can even kill him, and he just pops back up and will come back. It might not be tomorrow.
Yeah.
Might be a couple of years in the future, but like Vecna's always going to come back. He just has this real inevitability to him, right? You know, it's and the thing about D&D is very quickly in a D&D setting, your party becomes a group of powerful adventurers, right? You're defeating all these other monsters that, you know, like dragons and stuff, and then Vecna shows up and you're like, oh, we need to run away. Vecna's here. Like he's such a scary, inevitable threat in the universe that even his earliest appearances were just items with his name on them, and everybody was wondering, oh, who's this guy Vecna that's got this eye and this hand, and it was just like whispers of this ancient evil that was so powerful you couldn't even print a stat block for him because he was just that strong.
Yeah, it's the terrifying presence that few talk about, but if you've heard about him, it's probably already too late. It's true that it's got that absolute flavor, and he has been part of the Dungeons and Dragons universe for almost 50 years now, right? He was there at the very, very beginning, like you said, as whispers, as just a note in there. But he does have a stat block, and reading it is all. It's not ridiculous, but it's so much power in those pages. Like, you understand that he is, like you said, inevitable, but also he is able to scare a party of level 15 adventurers who are technically almost unstoppable by that point, right?
Right. Yeah.
It's kind of fun.
It's always like, I've lost quite a few player characters myself to Vecna, and you know, Eve of Ruin, we've got the new book coming out, and as soon as you see Vecna, Eve of Ruin, I was like, oh, looks like I'm gonna lose a couple more.
Yeah. But that's part of the fun. That's writing stories with your friends. So before we let Yannick and Dave take us through the details of how we implemented Vecna with the gameplay mechanics of Dead by Daylight, how we presented him to our players, I'm wondering if you have a message for the hardcore D&D fans out there who may not be familiar with Dead by Daylight.
Bitrate just shot up to 20K for some reason.
Try this chapter out, even if you don't play it. Like, watch somebody stream it, because this chapter, it's a love letter to Dungeons and Dragons from a very passionate and very talented team of developers at Behavior. It was super obvious throughout the entire process that, you know, from the sound design work to the animations and the modeling, and like it's I can't stress enough how easy it made the approvals process on our end, that all of this work came in very obviously driven by an incredibly high level of passion for Dungeons and Dragons. If you are a D&D fan, there's really cool Easter eggs in the map. There's really cool Easter eggs all over the place. There's just a ton of love for D&D in this thing. And if you're a fan, there's something in here for you, I promise. Even if you don't think that horror is your thing, give it a try. It's super fun.
Thank you so much for the kind words. Seriously, it means the world to me. Now, I think we'll wrap this up for now. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us today in our anniversary. And I hopefully will see you in the fog.
Hello? There you go.
Hey, hi, I'm not Dave. You're not Yannick.
I'm not Yannick.
No, we're quickly interrupting our D&D segment. There's a lot more. Stay tuned. Dave will be right where I am in just a second to give you an update on cross progression. So this
guy takes good care of his
TV
teeth.
moment as we speak. So apologies, you might have noticed, even though I was dressed the same. Our segment with Derek that was just before was pre-recorded, and in fact, we played the wrong one. So we want to give you more details on cross progression here. So that's what we're going to do. So take it away, Dork.
Yeah, so cross progression is hands down one of the most requested features every single stream, every single post. You guys are wanting cross progression, and we're giving it to you later this summer. Players players will need to own the base game on any platform that they're playing on and have a behavior account. I'm sure you heard me talking about cross progression with an account, and you're like, what is she talking about? Yeah, so make sure you have that, and you'll be able to use cross progression later this summer. We do understand that the website is currently down because so many people are trying to get to the website and make their account, but we're working on it, and we'll have this to you shortly.
Yep, and just as a clarification, in case we have a
I
few
love her
folks in
hair.
chat that
It's
aren't
so
aware,
cool.
Dead by Day. This is cross progression for console and PC. Dead by Daylight. We're not talking about Dead by Daylight mobile. It's really its own experience. If you've never played it, it's a different beast from the Dead by Daylight core, as we call it internally. Awesome. So along with the Twitch drops and a chance to get What the Fog for free, players now have another reason for their behavior account and another reason to crash our website. So like we said, bear with us. The site will be brought back up and all this will happen. Regarding cross progression though, any exceptions about in how the system's going to work?
Well, while every platform will have cross progression, there will be a few exceptions to what can be shared between those platforms. But stay tuned. We'll have a full FAQ coming very soon so that you can go ahead and learn more about cross progression for Dead by Daylight.
Yep. And as mentioned, now we're going to pass it to Dave and Janik for some great deep details on our Dungeons and Dragons chapter.
All right. Thank you, Dork, Eric, for this cross-progression information, just to prove that we are live. So we're super excited today to be able to talk about the Dungeon and Dragon chapter. I am Dave, creative director on Dead by Daylight, and I'm joined by my good friend, Yannick.
Hello, Yannick Never, principal game designer on Dead by Daylight. Today I'll be talking about all the intricacy of the gameplay on this chapter, but first a little mention. Dead by Daylight, 8 years, introducing Dungeon and Dragon. It's a big milestone for us, but we're not the only one hitting a special milestone.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that Dungeon and Dragon turns 50 this year.
Whoa.
And we are super proud and happy to be part of the celebration.
Damn.
And we just want to say that maybe when we turn 50, we do something else with you, Wizard of the Coast. Or maybe sooner.
Yeah, we'll probably be in retired home, but we'll be glad to join the party. So first, Dungeon & Dragon in Dead by Daylight. I have to be honest here. The first time you told me about what's going to be coming next, I was surprised because I'm a big horror fan, but when you think about horror, Dungeon & Dragon is not the first thing that comes to mind. But thinking about it more,
For as much
I
as I'm
realized,
excited
no,
for
wait, there's a lot of horror in Dungeon & Dragon.
licensed
And
chapters, I'm
Ravenloft
also
being
excited
my
for
favorite module,
original chapters because
so,
they
like you
do
really specifically
make
focus
cool
on
stuff.
certain element of the brand. So please tell us about that.
Huntress.
Yeah, so when we start a chapter, we
It's
always
cool.
have
The
a
unknown,
sandbox
of
created
course.
so that we stay
Singularity is
around
really
some
cool
specific
too.
pillars, like you said. And of course, when we think Dungeons
So I'm
and Dragons,
excited
the first thing
with
that
what they
comes to
come up
mind
with
is
next.
a magical world, high fantasy, magical creatures, wizards, magic, all sort of things that don't necessarily fit exactly well into a horror setting. But because D&D is a world of imagination where we can create whatever we want, there's also a way to make it happen. So for us, the first pillar was to make sure that we had a good juxtaposition with fantasy, so fully embracing that type of content, but make it horrific as well. And like you've seen in the trailer, having a character like Vecna made perfectly sense for that horror setting. The second pillar is creative role-playing. So in the image of Dungeon and Dragon, we wanted to make sure that players add a lot of agency, a lot of choices. So that goes from an amount of spells you can choose from in the power, which we'll talk about later, or even customization. So a way you can, kind of create your own character in some way. We just wanted to make sure that we had a lot of gameplay choices in the DBD trials. And the last pillar we worked with is chaos. So that's actually one of our main pillar in Dead by Daylight. But a lot of what happens in Dungeon and Dragon is based on randomness. You throw a dice, and with critical success, critical fails, and everything in between, you see the result and you adapt to it. So we wanted to recreate that feeling inside the Dead by Daylight trials as well.
Yeah, Dungeon Dragon is really about exploring a fantasy world, but also be thrilled about what's going to be the monster you're going to meet the next time you open a door.
So let's talk about that killer you'll meet the next time you open the door. So of course, Dungeons & Dragons has a lot of iconic monsters we could have chosen from, a lot of iconic villains as well. And with our friends at Wizard of the Coast, we've established that our next killer would be Vecna. Vecna is just a perfect fit for Dead by Daylight. He's a lich, so a powerful wizard that turned himself into undead to be able to continue his villainy. Is that even a word? I'm not sure. So he wanted to continue to do his horrible stuff for as long as he could. Vecna also has access to every spell in the books. So that was very interesting for us to create an interesting power. Of course, we also have a survivor in the chapter, so the Bard, a very interesting class. There's many classes that we could have chosen from, but the Bard was really the one that fit the most into our horror setting. You know, for example, when we think about a class like the Paladin, you think of the ability to turn the undead, magical sword, big plated armors, and all of this doesn't fit really well into the world of Dead by Daylight. The Bard, with abilities like Bardic Inspiration, the ability to sing, to play musical instrument, to know lore, and even to insult the villain, is just so on brand that it was a perfect fit. So that's why we chose the Bard. As you've seen in the image and the trailer, we're doing something special with the Survivor. It's akin to what we've done with Legion. So through the cosmetic customization, you'll be able to choose between two specific characters inside the same Survivor. So you'll have the choice between Aistree, a female elf, or Beramar, a human male. Yeah.
It's interesting, but when I was younger playing Dungeons & Dragons, like in my friends group, the Bard was not really a class that people tend to play.
True.
Compared especially to other class that you had. But throughout times, like there's been many change and iteration on the class, and has now become like such popular class to play. Really fun now, definitely, and has become kind of an emblem to Dungeons & Dragons as much as a Red Dragon now.
Absolutely. Every party nowadays has a Bard. And we've also seen a lot of Bard love into other content that Dungeons & Dragons produce, like the movie, for example.
Yeah, so we have an Undead Wizard, we have a Troubadour. Do we have a new map?
Absolutely. We're super proud to have a full chapter for the anniversary. And shocking no one, the map is a dungeon. Absolutely. So in the Borgo realm, we have a new map with a new building. So there is a top part
nice moon,
the marvelous
nice eclipse
lighting of the Borgo realm, and you can find this isolated tower in the middle. You can go inside and go into an extensive dungeon underground, packed with surprises and Easter egg related to Dungeons and Dragons. The goal with this map is that we've imagined that Vecna, knowing about different realms and plane, now trapped into the realm of the entity, would find a place to make his own, his lair. And so that he can study where he is, the world, the entity, and potentially find a way to escape, maybe not.
Because we don't know how powerful the entity is.
Map called Passage. So these are basically doors, magical doors.
But I've got a feeling it's stronger than Vecna.
From one area to the map to the next, and we think it's going to add a new interesting spot to teleport. These are basically doors, magical doors, which you can use to teleport from one area to the map to the next, and we think it's going to add a new interesting spice to chases.
Interesting.
The map, the Easter egg, it's super fun.
So you can go through portals now too.
Just exploring, you're gonna be thrilled to see all the small and the big one. On the gameplay side now for Vecna, so the way we tackle or approach the killer this time, interestingly, it comes from a game, so he has game mechanic that are pre-existent. So we look at all like stats block and try to come up with like the best spell that could be translated into game mechanic for us, and also make sure that these will be like thrilling and exciting to use. But then, so definitely he's a spellcaster, a very powerful one. So the goal was to make him feel as such in our game. But like I was saying, magic, it's something that we have never really tackled, not that way before. Something we've tried to stay away from. Like our powers are really visceral or like grounded as much as possible. It's something that do you want to talk about a bit? Magic?
Yeah, yes, please. I hope some of
Yeah, because so far the only
colleagues
magic
are laughing right now. They're
in the
they kinda
game is
have a bad
Vittorio
rep
and the
internally
Knight.
about magic. It's almost a taboo word that we can't use. But now making a D&D chapter, for sure we had to embrace magic. And of course there is a space for magic in our games, but it has to be taken with the right tone. So in this case, we're talking necromancy, blood magic, magic of the dead. And there's a touch of realism and visceralness that we wanted to add to magic versus something more flashy like a magic projectile or a fireball, for example. There's also something quite interesting out of Dungeons and Dragons, and these are the utility spells. They're spells that are not used to kill or damage, but they're used in very creative ways. And we wanted to highlight that with the Lich, with Vecna. So that was our approach. Now, do you want to talk to us about the spell that we actually chosen?
Sure. So you have access to 4 different type of spell. Pretty much any time they have their own individual cooldown. But so the first one is called Fly, a very popular, well-known Dungeons and Dragons spell in our game. It lifts up the killer, and you're pushed forward, obviously faster. So it's really like the traversal aspect of the power. It lasts for a short amount of time, and it's gonna also end if you vault a pallet or a vault location. And this is really useful to get closer to Survivor and get to the next gen as soon as possible. The next one is called Flight of the Dam, which is, it's not really a Dungeons and Dragons spell. It's more connected to Vecna. It's actually an ability that he has. What it does is that it casts 5 different individual projectile, and then it shoots them in a cone radius effect in front of him. These projectiles pass through obstacles. They don't go very far, but if they hit the survivor, they get damaged instantly. It might sound very powerful and easy to use, but it's not the case. Survivor have a lot of counter, but the spell can also be used to zone in this aspect, so you can also go for the basic M1 attack during that time. The third spell is called Dispelling Sphere, which is actually, it's a combination of different existing Dungeons and Dragons spell. We just felt it was more compelling to combine them into one spell. So what it does, you cast a large sphere in front of you, and that sphere moves slowly throughout the level. Survivor do not see that sphere, and if they get in contact with that sphere, they get revealed for a few seconds by Killer Instinct, and also have their magic items disabled for a minute. And the last but not least spell is Mage Hand, very well known Dungeons and Dragons spell. What it does in the daylight, you, as the killer, you can tag up nearby pallet. And if the pallet is upward, it blocks the pallet for a few seconds, cannot be interacted by Survivor. And if it's downward, it's lifted up for you, so you can fully pass without any obstacles. So the idea with this killer, he has a lot of tools and tricks in his bag, and it's really about managing all the force spells, the cooldown, and try to activate them at the right moment. So that's really how you're going to improve as a killer, is learning how to use them at the right time and be efficient with them.
So lots of strategic and tactical choices here.
Correct.
So you've mentioned very quickly during the Dispel Sphere, the magical item.
Did I? Yeah.
What's that?
Okay. So this is the new toy for Survivor. It's called magic items, but keep in mind it's not an actual items that they use. So this time, if you face Vecna, you're gonna have Survivor gonna have 7 different chests that's gonna spawn throughout the level. Survivor go interact with those chests, and while during the opening of the chest, there's gonna be a D20 dice roll. Yes, it's Dungeons and Dragon. We couldn't do the dice roll. So this dice roll will determine the content of the chest. So if Survivor roll from 2 to 4, they get a basic Dead by Daylight brown item.
Better than nothing.
Yeah, well, maybe that brown medkit might save your life. I don't know. But the fun part is when you roll from 5 to 19, that's when you get the magic items. And the way it works is that each Survivor has an equipment slot, 2 equipment slots. They have the bracers and the boots. So there's 2 type of magic items, and each magic item is going to be randomly linked the first time you open the chest to one of the 4 Vecna spells. And so once they are equipped, each time the killer will cast the spell that is linked to one of your magic item, you're going to gain a passive bonus to help out, kind of avoid the spell or help you out against Vecna in general. So to be more precise, so if you have bracers against the fly spell, you're going to see Vecna's aura during the traveling that while you use the spell. If you have a boots, for example, against the Flight of the Damned, you see the aura of the projectile, very useful because the projectile goes through collision, and the best way to use that spell is through walls. If you have magic items against the Dispelling Sphere, survivors see the sphere, so they can juke and go around the sphere as much as they can. And if you have a counter against the Mage Hand, you see the aura of the hand on the palette, and also gain a little haste effect, so that helps you out around the loop.
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's really important to search those chests.
Yeah, correct. Because the way that we tackled this, like the balance in this case, is that we made sure that the magic items do not trunker the killer's power. It's made or balanced to face survivor who have them equipped. So if you don't get those, definitely the killer might feel a bit oppressive. So it's really up to survivor to get to those chests and equip them as soon as possible.
Right. And just to be clear, you can also equip a normal item with that. So you can have your flashlight, bracer, and boots.
Correct. It's a very different slot.
So everybody heard you talk about a lot of numbers here on the dice, but you've not mentioned the critical fail, 1, and critical success on the 20. For people that don't play D&D, these are like events, the best event that can happen in Dungeons & Dragons when you get that critical fail or that critical success. So what happens in Dead by Daylight when that happens?
Yes, so we have critical roll in the game. If you roll a 1, you get, a big nothing. Although I've heard sometimes people get a green key. I guess
that's
lucky
that's
you.
better, yeah.
But I know what you get if you roll a 20. So anyone who's familiar with Vecna in the lore of Dungeons & Dragons, there are 2 very specific artifacts that exist that is called the Eye of Vecna and the Hand of Vecna, and we introduce them in our game. So you roll a 20, you get one of the 2. You never know. But these works more like a normal item, so you have to pick them up and use them once. It's called attune, so you merge with the items, and then you unlock a very powerful ability up to like perk level.
Okay.
Yes, it's very strong. I guess you want to know.
But please do say.
Okay, sure. So if you attune with the Eye of Vecna, they use with lockers. So if you fast exit a locker, you're going to be unseen, unheard by the killer for 15 seconds. And on top of that, you gain a haste boost effect. And if you attune with the Hand of Vecna, you fast enter a locker and you're going to be teleported further down further locker.
Wow.
So very powerful. I forgot a little details because they might sound super strong, said like that, but they come with a cost. So to use them, you have to be full health. And once you use them, you instantly lose a health state. And also, at the end of the effect, you get revealed by Killer Instinct. So be very mindful the way you use them, because we've seen a lot of situations where it backfire at the survivor, and the killer has definitely a spell to help him out, get back at the survivor, and get the down.
So it's very on brand with what a cursed item should be.
Indeed.
Well, thank you so much, Yannick. As you can see, there's a lot of stuff coming with Vecna. And we had no time today to talk about anything more about the killer perks or the survivor. But I have to say very quickly that the survivor perk will allow you to create illusions, to perform on the loot. You can even perform with other survivors to do the full melody. There's also a dice roll mechanic for one of the perk. So if you want more information after the show, you can go on our website, deadbydaylight.com, and get all of the details you need. Merci encore, Yannick, for all the information. And thank you so much to all of you. Happy anniversary. And I'll be passing it back to Eric and Dork.
Very interesting.
Dragons in Dead by Daylight. Oh my God, Dungeons and Dragons in Dead by Daylight.
You are a pretty frequent DM yourself, right?
Yes, I do DM on occasion. Forever player, as they said in the interview. Well, no, forever DM.
Yeah.
Never a player. Please make me a player.
You must be so psyched.
So psyched. I'm so psyched. I'm so excited. I just cannot wait to see what we have in store and to go against Vecna.
Hopefully people have noticed your dice
Yeah,
necklace.
my nice D4. I got it, okay. But yes, just like Dave said, don't forget to head over to deadbydaylight.com right after the show for the full breakdown on Vecna and all of his powers. You'll also be able to see the perks that we've got for him and our bard coming into the fog.
And also, don't forget to ask questions in the chat when you're not spamming nonsense garbage. Ask real questions, and we'll answer them later in the Q&A. You don't need to say claim. Please stop saying claim. You're not claiming anything by saying claim. Stop.
But we appreciate your enthusiasm. But next, we're going to be, I'm going to be joined by Dave Richard back on the couch for him to walk us through the ever-expanding world of Dead by Daylight.
Trickster's music, very good, very
super
good.
excited for this. Hey, I'm over here now. So I'm super excited for this part of the stream because not only do we get to talk about 2 upcoming projects within the world of Dead by Daylight, that being Supermassive's The Casting of Frank Stone, and an unnamed multiplayer PvE game by Midwinter, but we get to do it all with Dave Richard. So, Dave, can you please tell me why we chose these games to be the right games for us to expand the world of Dead by Daylight?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of stuff going into that choice for sure. So first of all, we are super happy and grateful to have a community already there playing Dead by Daylight. So of course we listen to what they want to see, what they want to play. So that comes into the recipe of the choice we're going to make. We also want to make sure that we will create something new to experience, something that's completely out of what we are used to in Dead by Daylight. So that comes into the genre we want to create. Also, we want to interest new players into the world of Dead by Daylight. Some people that never heard of Dead by Daylight, but also some viewers that are interested about the world of DBD, but that don't play DBD because maybe it's not their style of game. So we want also these players to be with us and experience the world of Dead by Daylight.
And just like you were saying, with people being interested in the world of Dead by Daylight, as the creative director, why do you think there's so much interest in the lore of a multiplayer game that's based in action?
Well, it's been very important for us since day one when we started working on this project. The story and the narrative around everything we create. We want to make sure that every little component in DBD has a story and a reason to live in the universe. We take great care into making that happen. So, there's a lot of mysteries within mysteries, a lot of layers to our narrative, which